FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
Welcome. You are listening to the Financial Survival Network. I'm Kerry Lutz, and today is 9/10/19. And, well, you've probably been watching the precious metals markets. They took a little bit of a hit yesterday, coming back today, but obviously it was time. Gold hit 1550, time to break or attempt to break the momentum of the rally. Will it work long term? Probably not. There's a lot of things going on in the world. Got a great guest for you now, someone we haven't talked with in a while, too long, Rob Kirby. You can find Rob's work at kirbyanalytics.com. That's KIRBY analytics.com. Rob, welcome back to the show. So gold's been on a tear, but they're still trying to keep it down. They're still trying to suppress the price. Are they going to win in the long run, or can they win?
Well, they're fighting a losing battle, Kerry, but it's still amazing that they maintain the degree of control on a day-to-day basis of the paper price that they, demonstrably have shown us that they still maintain. Just yesterday, silver down $1, gold down $40, and I do note this morning that silver extended its losses overnight, and we've now rebounded to, I guess we're pretty much back to flat for the day, but we're down $1 from yesterday.
Yeah, there's no explanation for that. Makes no sense.
Well, there's a great explanation for it. In America, regulators don't regulate. So these kind of shenanigans will continue until regulators in America begin to regulate, or they're hung from trees. It's one or the other.
Yeah, I see your point. I meant no rational market explanation for them to hit just at that particular moment. Just so happened gold had gone over 1550, and I guess the alarm was sounded. We got to do something, and we got to do it now and get this price down. But they're not going to be able to do it. Good friend Craig Hemke said that 2019 is 2010 as far as precious metals are concerned. He said this months ago, and it's looking more and more like he was correct.
Listen, I agree with it. But it's amazing that on a given day, the powers that be still have the ability to bloody the nose of the precious metals whenever they seem to want to.
Well, the difference now, though, is that the damage that they inflict is very short-lived. And
I agree with that.
Yeah.
I agree with that, and that's a welcome development too.
Yeah. So it says the world's waking up the canary in the coal mine, right?
Well, it would be evident, or seems evident to me, that at least the canary is no longer dead. The canary can be knocked off its perch, but the canary seems to be able to compose itself and jump back on the perch very quickly now, which 5 years ago it couldn't. So that's a welcome development.
Yeah, it shows strength, investor interest returning, because if there's no investor interest or individual interest in a market, the market goes nowhere, pretty much goes sideways indefinitely. And people were starting to buy into the fact that it was a barbarous relic that had no function in the modern economy. Maybe that attitude's changing a bit.
We can only hope so.
Yeah, we can only hope. So your belief is, based on other guests that you've had and what officials' statements they've made, is we're heading for a global kind of cryptocurrency, you think?
Well, it would seem to me that the central banking community is somewhat fractured at this point in time. And I say that referencing Mark Carney's speech or pronouncement made from Jackson, Wyoming, 2 weeks ago today, at their secret squirrel meeting that they hold annually at the Rockefeller retreat in Jackson Hole, where Mr. Carney, who is the current governor of the Bank of England, made a pronouncement that the world needs an alternative to the U.S. dollar as the world's reserve currency, and the world needs to reduce its dependence on the U.S. dollar to settle international trade accounts. And that is the first such pronouncement from a central banker that I've ever heard in my lifetime. And I believe it's the first such pronouncement from a central banker since the Bretton Woods conference at the end or conclusion of the Second World War. And that to me is a seminal point on the calendar because, understand who Mark Carney is. He's a former Goldman Sachs banker, former head of the Bank of Canada, current head of the Bank of England, and rumored to be the replacement for Christine Lagarde as head of the IMF. This guy is extremely well placed.
Wired.
This guy is like, he is. I mean, if you want to define or imagine the prototypical central banker in the global community, Mark Carney to me would be it, pretty much. And this is a man that carries a lot of weight, and his opinion carries a lot of weight in central banking circles. And he's a very, very much, I would go as far to say he might be the wonder kid of the BIS establishment. And when I say the BIS, I'm talking about the Bank for International Settlements based in Basel, Switzerland. And I find it very interesting that actually I believe Jerome Powell is supposed to be delivering a speech or speaking to the media today, minutes from now, as we're recording this. I think Jerome Powell is scheduled to be giving some sort of a press conference in Basel, Switzerland. Mm-hmm. And I don't think it's really a coincidence that Jerome Powell has been summoned to Basel, Switzerland, or is there on this timeline so soon after the meeting in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, because it just seems to me that he probably is there to speak directly to Mark Carney's pronouncement. Mm. I mean, that's the way it seems to me. Mm-hmm. But I guess we shall see.
Yeah.
Because the fact that there's a meeting in Basel, Switzerland, 2 weeks to the day after the Jackson Hole summit, and Jerome Powell is going to be speaking publicly, or is expected to speak publicly today, leaves me scratching my head as to why. But I do believe that this utterance of Mr. Carney is a seminal event in the economic universe. So we shall see.
Or just a recognition of what everybody already knew, I guess. We've been talking about this for years, that the dollar's reserve status is going to end at some point. It's hard to just do a very quiet, easy transition from one currency to another. So there's got to be dislocations. There's got to be a lot of angst among the world, and certainly that isn't good for the United States.
Well, you know what, Kerry, I find it very interesting. Carney was not making a pronouncement advocating a return to the gold standard. Mm. His pronouncement was for a replacement of the dollar as the world's reserve currency in favor of a crypto solution. And that really stands out to me.
Out of the mainstream for sure.
So, I mean, I think most people in the most people in the real money universe would believe that a return to sound money would involve a return to let's just say, a real stuff-backed currency.
Yeah.
And that wasn't the pronouncement at all. And it only reinforces to me that the powers that be favor a crypto alternative to the dollar as the world's reserve currency, and still are anti, and they maintain their anti-metal stance.
Yeah.
Absolutely, and without a doubt. So, I mean, I can't see a crypto solution really being functional and working long term.
Stopgap.
To me, we're going to go back to a real stuffed back currency as the world's reserve currency, whether we like it or not, and very well maybe kicking and screaming the whole way.
I agree with that. Kicking and screaming, because look, what is he's saying is we as central bankers, by not embracing gold, is saying we as central bankers still want to control stuff. We still want to control the supply and interest rates. We're just going to use a different vehicle, a more perhaps modern technological vehicle for doing it. But that statement really raises a lot more questions than it answers. Because, like, who's going to keep track of it? Who's going to determine the supply? Who's going to determine exchange rates? All these things. Or will there be exchange rates? Will countries give up their sovereign right to issue currencies?
FSN Radio. It's all about what's next.
Osino Resources is a Ross Beatty-backed gold exploration company in mining-friendly Namibia. Osino's district-scale land package is situated near 2 producing gold mines, one of which Osino's management team previously developed and sold to B2 Gold. Osino's founders and management are experienced mining professionals who have already successfully developed and sold 2 companies in the past 7 years. Osino has an excellent shareholder base with Ross Beatty owning 20%, insiders 5%, and Resource Capital Funds 8%. This is an exploration company with drills turning that you'll definitely want to pay attention to. Osino trades in New York under the ticker OSIIF and in Toronto under the ticker OSI. To learn more, go to osinoresources.com. That's osinoresources.com.
The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
Kerry, I think the real question, if we're going down the route of a crypto alternative, if we are, which I believe they're going to try to force down humanity's throat, I do believe the real question is, will it be centralized or will it be decentralized?
Yeah.
Because to me, the central banking community will not tolerate anything other than a centralized crypto alternative, which they have exclusive control of.
Yeah, otherwise they give up their power, right? They give up their power. And I've never met a government official who said, I don't like this anymore, and I don't think it should exist. Let's just get rid of it. This is not going to happen.
So, and then the corollary to that, in my mind, effectively becomes: do you trust the likes of Mark Zuckerberg to run it?
Yeah, right. Well, Libra, Libra actually could become a de facto reserve currency if the right circumstances arise, because Facebook is so big, they have so many vendors. They're not going to pay their vendors in money, in local currencies anymore. They're going to pay it in Libra.
Well, just remember this, Kerry. Libra, as it has been tabled, is a centralized cryptocurrency, not a
stable coin.
Bitcoin is decentralized and Libra is centralized. So the notion that the likes of a Mark Zuckerberg could be in control of the world's reserve currency literally means he could deplatform you from commerce.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
He could at his whim, he could literally decide who gets to participate in commerce and who doesn't. With a decentralized crypto solution, no one person has that ability.
Correct. And you would want to have a fixed supply of these units out there as well. You don't want them, maybe the mining schema of Bitcoin would work for this where people mine, but I just don't see that as being viable. I mean, you want X trillion units. There'll never be any more units, period. The one thing about crypto is we haven't figured out a way to break it and actually add more units if it's a fixed supply of units. We haven't figured out, the CIA supposedly not figured out how to break the algorithm. But the one thing is the current crop of cryptos, Rob, are really flawed, because I can pull up a map of Bitcoin nodes across the globe, and if I could do it, the powers that be can, and they can shut those nodes down either physically or using cyber attacks. They can shut it down. So the next decentralized version has to be impervious to that and has to be anonymized.
You know what, Kerry? I used to believe, listen, I do remember 10 years ago being told by the likes of Mad Max, who I used to do interviews with years ago.
Yeah.
And these are people that tried to encourage me to buy Bitcoin when it was sub $10.
Yeah, same here.
And I, to be honest with you, I laughed at them and I said to them, have you ever heard of something called an internet kill switch? And I can only say that I have somewhat rethought my former way of thinking, in that it's more problematic for the powers that be to kill the internet than I used to believe.
Oh, they can't do that.
I used to believe,
they can't do it.
Like I used to believe they could kill it whenever they wanted, or they could disrupt it whenever they wanted.
No, they can't.
But our world has become so completely dependent on the internet and the Internet of Things that I don't really believe it's realistic anymore to think that they can just kill the internet.
No, they can't do that. That would mean a global economic collapse like we've never seen anything like, because the internet is the dominant way of conducting business for every business in the world, except for maybe your mom and pop grocery store.
Everything depends on the internet now.
Yeah.
From military to our whole economy would grind to a halt.
Scheduling your doctor's appointment, just scheduling everything's in the cloud. Yeah, so but
imagining a world with no internet is almost like imagining a world with no roads.
It's going back to the Stone Ages, because we just cannot do it. That's the thing about technology, Rob, and I'd love to have just a talk with you about technology one day, is once technology becomes integrated and ingrained, there is no going back. And you could be a Luddite all day long, the good old days before there was technology. That's all well and good. Romanticize those days. But the practical matter is, without the internet, this economy, this world grinds to a halt almost immediately. Within a week, we would be in a global depression, the likes of we've never seen. How are you going to make a phone call if there's no internet?
Listen, Kerry, if we eliminate the internet, the banks will not open.
No, they're done. They're dead.
ATMs will not function.
Mm-hmm.
They're all dependent on the internet now.
Yeah, but what I'm talking about is
when one speaks seriously about an internet kill switch, and when one talks about the internet being shut off, you're talking about living in a world where the banks don't open and the ATMs are not functioning.
Yeah, I agree. What I was saying is that a directed attack against the cryptocurrency nodes is definitely possible, doable, not just by governments, but other large corporations with zillions of computing power, zillions of terabytes. It could be done.
To do an attack on the nodes of a cryptocurrency, and for it to be successful in terms of shutting a cryptocurrency down, one would, I believe, need or have to have at their availability a quantum computer.
Exactly.
And if a quantum computer is being put to work to destroy a cryptocurrency, we know who's behind it.
Yeah, but
in which case they will hang from trees.
Well, they don't have, but look, though, they don't have to destroy it. They just have to shut it down for 2 or 3 days, because if there's no price discovery for a major crypto, it ceases to exist because there is zero confidence. But in any event, I find it fascinating that we're even speculating about this. I guess cryptos are the future, but probably not the existing crop of cryptos that are out there, many of which are little more than kleptocurrencies, just designed to separate you from your money.
I would agree with that.
So it's going to be crypto 2.0 or 3.0, and hopefully it will be distributed and not in the hands of the government. Rob, when you think about it, they say war is far too important to be trusted to the generals. Well, currencies are far too important to be trusted to governments and central banks. And the sooner we figure that one out, the better. Anyways, we have to take off now, but KirbyAnalytics.com, best place to still find your work?
Yep, that's it.
All right. And Twitter handle or Facebook, any of that?
No, I don't believe in things that I can be excommunicated from.
Well, then you're obviously an atheist, or at least an agnostic, or whatever you would call it.
Actually, I consider myself very spiritual, Kerry.
Same here.
I just don't believe in things where people can arbitrarily shut me down.
Yeah, well, 500 years ago, Rob, it was the Catholic Church that could just boot you because you did something to offend God, and now it's Mark Zuckerberg. Man, the more things change, the more they stay the same, right?
Here.
All right. Hey, thanks so much for coming on. Hey, questions, comments? Do you think a cryptocurrency is the future of the global currency? Email us, kl@kerrylutz.com. I'll share it with Rob, and we'll get you back an answer on the show. And check out our Twitter feed. We haven't been excommunicated yet, but it's probably just a matter of time. At Kerry Lutz. Facebook page, Financial Survival Network. Rob, it's always a pleasure. Thank you so much.
It's been a pleasure, Kerry.
FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.